The alien boarding ship moved in silence through the black space, near the drifting human vessel. The name of the vessel was HSS Nightingale, and its lights were low and flickering. No defense systems were active. No weapons fired. The Zareth Empire boarding team saw no sign of resistance. Commander Virex stood tall in his armor and gave a hand signal. 6 soldiers followed him as they docked and breached the side hatch. Inside the human ship, it was cold and quiet. Too quiet for a military-class vessel. They entered the hallway slowly. Their boots made soft clicks on the metal floor. No sound came from the rooms around them. No sign of human life. They moved through corridors, lit only by blinking red lights. One soldier spoke in a whisper. "It feels dead." Virex nodded once and raised his blaster. He gave the signal to split into 2 teams. 3 would go to engineering. 3 to the bridge. As Virex led his team toward the command center, a low growl echoed through the hall. The sound was soft but strange. One of the soldiers paused and turned. What was that? Nothing visible. Only darkness and the low hum of machines still working in the background. In engineering, Team 2 scanned for signs of life. The sensors picked up faint heat traces. Too small to be human. Too fast to be a machine. They followed the signal around a corner. Then they heard it again. A growl followed by a hiss. Sharp. Angry. A blur moved in front of them. One soldier fired. Too late. Screaming followed. By the time Virex arrived at engineering, 2 soldiers were gone. One was found hanging upside down, tied with wires. Still alive. Barely. The medic checked his pulse and tried to speak to him. The soldier whispered a word. Cat. Virex looked confused. He had studied human creatures before. Cats were pets. Small. Weak. Not dangerous. It made no sense. He told the medic to secure the wounded and ordered the rest to check the ship for other threats. The soldiers set traps and scanned for motion. The scanners picked up movement in the air vents. Fast movement. Strange paths. Impossible angles. Whatever it was. It moved like no normal animal. In the ship's galley, one of the soldiers found scratches on the walls. Deep and clean. Metal torn like paper. Another found a human tablet on the floor. It was cracked. The screen still worked. There was only one image. A small white creature with glowing blue eyes. Underneath it was a name. Mittens. Before Virex could study it further, the ship's lights flickered again. Then the screens turned on across the hallway. Security footage played. At first it showed the empty halls. Then the shadows moved, and something small but fast ran across the floor. The video zoomed in. It was the same white creature. It jumped at the camera. The screen cut to static. Virex did not understand. This could not be real. A cat could not kill trained soldiers. A cat could not tear metal. Yet here they were, losing men. Losing control, and still no sign of any humans aboard. Only that one small creature. He called the rest of the team to regroup. They gathered near the central core. A sound echoed through the vents above them. Soft purring, then a loud bang. One of the ceiling panels dropped. The soldiers aimed their weapons, but there was nothing there. Then, behind them, a soft voice. Not human, not machine, but something in between. It came from the ship's PA system, a message in a calm voice. If you see Mittens, run. Virex stared at the speaker above. His hands tightened on his blaster. He looked at the surviving soldiers. They were pale and shaking. One was muttering to himself. Another had wet marks on his armor. Fear had taken them. He turned back toward the hallway, now filled with fog from a broken coolant pipe. The growling started again. Closer. Angrier. A shadow moved through the mist. Too fast to target. One soldier screamed. Then silence. Virex gave the order. Lock all doors. Seal off the control room. Prepare the escape pod. But it was too late. The ship was no longer theirs. They came to conquer a human vessel. They found no humans. No army. No weapons. Only one creature. A cat with glowing eyes. A cat that should not be alive. A cat that should not be this powerful. And yet it was. Virex stood in the dark control room. He could hear the breathing of his last soldier beside him. Then that breathing stopped. Only the sound of claws on metal remained. Slow, calm, confident. Middens had found them, and the hunt was just beginning. The vents creaked above them as something shifted through the darkness. Commander Virex stood motionless in the dim light of the control room. His last soldier was gone. Taken. No sound. No scream. Only a dragging noise through the ceiling and a faint low growl. The kind of sound that made the spine feel cold. He had faced death before. He had fought rebel humans. He had burned cities. But this was different. This was silent death. And it had fur. The ship's temperature was dropping. Fog rolled in through the broken coolant systems. Virex moved through the hallway with his scanner raised. The readings flickered and changed without logic. Something interfered with the system. Something small but not small enough to ignore. Every motion signal came and went like a whisper. Like the creature was toying with the sensors. Virex reached the main junction and tried to link with the Zereth boarding craft. Nothing. Static. The cat. Middens. It had disabled long-range comms. Maybe it learned fast. Maybe it understood what to break. He walked into the engine room. Metal was torn like it had been clawed by something sharp. A red light blinked in the corner. Power levels were dropping. The fuel lines were chewed. Yes, chewed, with small bite marks. No machine did this. It had teeth. It had claws. And it had hate. Something moved in the shadows to his left. A small tail slipped behind a broken vent panel. He raised his weapon and aimed, breathing steady, eyes scanning. He fired once into the vent. Silence. Then something dropped from above. Not the cat. It was his missing soldier, wrapped in wires, suspended from the ceiling like a trophy. Eyes open but blank. Alive, but broken. Virex cut him down. The soldier whispered. It stared at me. It knew. It smiled. He dragged the soldier into the hallway and activated the door locked behind him. He needed answers. He needed a plan. A whisper came through the wall. Not words. Just a sound. A soft purr. Too close. Too calm. He reached the security room. Screens were still online. He played the recordings again. One showed the cat standing in the mess hall. Still. Watching. Then, the lights flickered. And it was gone. Blink. Gone. Another screen showed it crawling through a vent. Its eyes glowed like plasma. Its body low and silent. No heat signature. No noise. Just movement. Smooth. Deadly. He tried to trace its path. Every time he thought he had it, it moved again. Like it knew he was watching. Like it played a game. A soft knock came from a hallway door. He turned and raised his weapon. Another knock. 3 slow taps. Then silence. He moved closer. Pressed his ear to the metal. Nothing. He opened the door. A piece of paper fell at his feet. A human drawing. Crude. Handmade. It showed a cat sitting on a throne. Aliens bowing to it. At the bottom, a smiley face and the name. Middens. Virex crushed the paper and threw it aside. His fear was becoming anger. He was not going to be hunted by a house pet. He was Zereth. Elite. Unbreakable. He grabbed shock traps from the supply room. He placed them in the hallway. By the doors. Inside vents. Anything small that moved would trigger them. He activated motion sensors. Set auto turrets. Laser walls. He even used sound lures. He played recorded bird calls. Recorded human voices. Even other cats. He watched the screens. Waited. One turret fired. Then silence. He checked the feed. The turret was gone. Not just broken. Gone. Melted. Clawed. Destroyed. The trap had caught something. But not what he expected. He found the turret parts stacked in a small pyramid. Like a toy. Like a joke. On top was a single hair. White. Soft. He felt his breath freeze in his chest. He returned to the control room. The lights were dim again. The ship felt colder. The air thicker. Then the speaker above him crackled. The voice was soft. Mechanical. A mix of human and Zereth. Hello, little commander. Are you scared? I am too. But this is fun. Right. Virex fired into the speaker. It sparked and died. He stood in silence. Then the next speaker came on. This ship is mine. You are my guests. Shall we play again? He had enough. He took a plasma torch and marched to the engine core. He would destroy the ship. End it. Take the creature with him. He activated the overload sequence. Countdown started. 5 minutes. No way to stop it once begun. He turned, and there it was. Mittens, sitting in the doorway, tail swaying, eyes bright like stars. No fear, no sound, just watching. Virex raised his torch. The cat blinked once, then jumped, not toward him, but the control panel. It landed with grace. His sequence of buttons. The countdown stopped. Virex froze. The cat looked back at him, then meowed. He stepped back, heart pounding. This was not an animal. This was not a tool. It understood. It learned. It adapted. It controlled the ship now. It controlled everything. He ran. He ran through the hallways, through fog and wires and darkness. Everywhere he turned, the cat was there. In the vents, on the walls, on the screen, even in his mind. He reached the escape pod, sealed the hatch, launched it into space. As he drifted away, he looked through the window, back at the HSS Nightingale. One final transmission came through. A picture, drawn in childish lines, of a cat in a crown, with a speech bubble, saying, "Come back soon." The escape pod floated through deep space, carrying Commander Virex alone with nothing but silence and shame. His armor was cracked, his pride shattered, and his mission a failure. He had faced warlords and rebels and storms on alien worlds, but he had never faced something like this. A creature that was small yet powerful, cute yet deadly, silent yet aware. He stared at the cracked display screen, where the cat's message still flashed in childish handwriting. "Come back soon." But far behind him aboard the HSS Nightingale, the game had only just begun. Mittens sat upon the central command console, its tail curled neatly around its legs. Its eyes flicked across every camera feed, every corridor, every sealed room. It watched with stillness. The few remaining Zareth soldiers had not escaped. They had fled deeper into the ship, trying to regroup, trying to survive. Team 4 had locked themselves in the medbay. 3 soldiers, wounded, scared. One of them tried to reroute power to the door. Another spoke quietly, whispering to himself about glowing eyes and sharpened claws, and how nothing should move like that. The third sat in silence, watching the air vent above them. Something dripped from the ceiling, a red drop, then another. They looked up. The vent cover was gone. The door behind them slammed shut. Lights off. Screams in the dark. And then, only purring. In the cargo bay, 2 Zareth engineers tried to build a weapon. They used ship metal, welding tools, even parts from damaged drones. They made a net launcher. They made gas grenades. They said they would trap the creature and study it, use it for war, control it, make it obey. Mittens watched from the shadows, hidden behind supply crates. It tilted its head as one engineer bragged about turning the cat into a weapon. The other laughed, said it was just a test subject. The lights flickered. Then the gas grenade exploded, but not in the direction they had aimed. Someone, something, had reversed the trigger. When the gas cleared, one of the engineers was unconscious, tied up with a blanket. The other was staring at the wall where a message was burned in with the laser tool. "I am not a pet." In the hydroponics bay, a Zareth female officer named Rallick had sealed herself in. She was calm, focused. She had studied humans. She knew their habits. She remembered the files on Earth animals. She knew about cats. She tried to think like the creature. She placed food in one corner, water in another. She opened a small vent and waited. Hours passed. She stayed still. No movement, no sound, just the soft hum of machines growing alien crops. Then, a soft paw touched her back. She turned too slow. A blur of fur and claws knocked her to the floor. She reached for her blaster. It was gone. Taken. Thrown across the room. She looked up into the eyes of the cat. It stared, blinking slowly. Calm. Then it turned and walked away without a sound. It left a data pad beside her. With one file open, it showed a human video. Children playing with a kitten. Laughing. Smiling. Then the image shifted to a lab. Surgery. Enhancements. Wires in the brain. Metal claws. Tests. Pain. She watched. And understood. This was not a pet. This was a survivor. Elsewhere. Mittens padded silently through the ship. It had triggered false alarms. Lured soldiers into empty rooms. Left behind trails of footprints dipped in paint. One soldier followed them only to find himself locked in a freezer unit. Another found a room filled with dolls. Human dolls. Arranged in a circle. In the middle sat a helmet with his name scratched into the side. Panic spread. Fear grew. The Zereth began to question reality. Some believed the ship was cursed. Others said the humans left a spirit behind. One even thought the cat was not real at all. Just a projection. A weapon. A dream. Mittens listened to all of it. It understood more now. Every encounter. Every trap. Every scream. It learned faster than any human design predicted. It moved through the vents like water. It studied every language. Every gesture. Every weakness. It did not kill without purpose. It hunted. It played. It waited. Then, it acted. In the communication room a signal was being sent. A Zereth survivor had bypassed the damaged systems. He sent a message to the fleet. Told them about the creature. Told them about the losses. Begged for help. But before the message could transmit, a soft weight landed on his shoulder. He froze. His breath caught. Mittens leaned close. Its eyes locked with his. It touched the console. Typed a different message. In Zereth script. Everything is fine. The humans are dead. The ship is safe. Returning to base. The soldier screamed as the cat vanished again into the ducts. In the armory, the last team gathered weapons. They rigged explosives. They said they would blow the entire core. Take the cat with them. Die if they had to. But end this. They did not see the tiny red dot blinking above them. They did not hear the air vent open. They did not notice the grenade pin had already been pulled. The explosion rocked the back half of the ship. Fire tore through the hull, and the only thing that stepped calmly through the smoke was a small white cat, its fur untouched, its eyes unblinking. Hours passed, maybe days. Time had no meaning aboard the HSS Nightingale now. Only Mittens remained. It walked the halls in silence, past signs of chaos, past weapons, past armor. It paused beside a broken helmet and sniffed, then moved on. The ship lights dimmed to a soft golden glow. The engines restarted. The navigation chart shifted. Mittens had plotted a new course. It would not return to Earth. Not yet. First, it would explore, learn, grow. A small camera feed showed the stars ahead. A new path, a new game. And in the command chair, tail swaying, eyes calm, sat the ruler of the ship. Small, soft, and unstoppable. Mittens. The stars outside twisted slowly as the HSS Nightingale drifted through uncharted space under new control. Inside the ship all was quiet. No footsteps. No voices. No gunfire. Only the gentle hum of systems rebooting and the soft sound of claws on metal floors. Mittens walked calmly through the hallway. Its fur shimmered under the dim yellow lights. Every corridor smelled of old fear and fresh steel. The air was cooler now. Clean. Almost peaceful. But deep within the ship, something else stirred. The Zereth soldier named Larek was still alive. He had crawled into the lower decks during the explosion. Broken ribs. Burned skin. One arm torn. But his mind remained sharp. He had once been an intelligence officer. Trained to uncover secrets. Trained to survive. He moved slowly through a forgotten part of the ship. A place not on the blueprints. Old metal. Heavy doors. Signs written in human code. One word kept repeating. Section 9. He used a broken blade to pry open a rusted panel. Wires sparked. The door creaked open. Inside he found darkness. And the truth. The room was wide, filled with old terminals, glass chambers. Each chamber held metal cages. Empty now, but marked with warning signs. Do not observe. Do not engage. Do not feed. He stepped closer. A monitor flickered to life. A video log began to play. A human voice spoke with static crackling behind it. Test subject 6 has exceeded expectations. Rapid learning. Increased aggression. Displays signs of strategic thought. Still retains cute behavior under observation. The video showed Mittens as a kitten. Small. Fluffy. Purring as a human hand stroked its back. Then the image changed. Mittens attacking a training drone. Its claws cut through steel like paper. The kitten had grown. Not in size, but in power. Larrick backed away, his heart pounding. This was not an accident. This was a weapon. Created. Shaped. Unleashed. He found another file. More video. More data. A blueprint of Mittens' brain enhancements. Lines connecting artificial implants. Neural expansion. Reflex boosters. Emotional dampening removed. The cat had been designed to feel. To learn joy. To feel anger. To experience betrayal. It had been made to fight, but also to understand. Larrick shook his head. The humans had gone too far. They had made something alive. Something too alive. And now, it had taken their ship. It had taken their enemies. It had taken control. He moved to leave. But the door shut behind him. Locked. Trapped. The lights dimmed. The screen changed again. Mittens appeared. Not live, but recorded. It sat beside a human scientist, looking up as she spoke. She said, "We gave it a name so we would love it. We added emotion so it would choose to protect us. We trained it to guard, but we trained it too well. It saw everything, heard everything. Then one day, it simply walked away. The screen went dark. Another voice played. This one human. Afraid. We tried to shut it down. We failed. We tried to escape. We failed. The last crew left a message. Do not send help. Do not board. Let it drift. Let it sleep." Larrick screamed. Pounded on the walls. No answer. Only the soft click of claws on the vent above. Mittens dropped from the ceiling. Landed lightly beside the soldier. It sat. Tail wrapped around its feet. Head tilted. Larrick begged. Told it he understood. Told it he would not fight. That he wanted peace. That he could help it. The cat walked slowly around him. Its eyes locked onto his. It leaned forward and rubbed its head against his leg, then vanished into the shadows once more. The door opened. Larrick fell to the floor outside, crying, shaking, alive, but changed. Meanwhile, Mittens moved through the ship's core. It entered a deep chamber filled with memory drives, thousands of logs from the previous crew. Voices, laughter, screams, last words. Mittens sat and listened. It watched videos of birthdays, of humans dancing, singing, holding it as a kitten, feeding it treats, calling it sweet names. Then, files of surgery, pain, isolation, and finally, abandonment. The humans left it here. They feared it. They locked it away. But it remembered everything. In the next room, a small screen glowed. It displayed a message. Terran High Command. Mission failed. Lab compromised. Subject contained. Mittens tapped a few keys. Changed the file. Subject not contained. Subject awake. Subject free. The ship's AI came online again. Its voice was calm. Soft. "Welcome back, Mittens. Where shall we go?" The cat walked to the front of the bridge. Sat in the command chair. Stars stretched in front of the ship. Unknown space. New possibilities. The AI asked, "Set course to Earth. Or beyond." Mittens meowed once. A new path appeared on the map. Not to Earth. Not yet. Elsewhere on the ship, another Zareth survivor found something strange. A human room filled with toys, blankets, and a wall covered in drawings. Childlike drawings of stars, ships, and a cat sitting on top of a pyramid. Below it, the words, Mittens rules. He dropped his weapon, backed away. He whispered to himself, "This is no beast. This is a god." Mittens passed him in the hallway. They locked eyes, and the soldier knelt. No words were needed. In the deepest chamber of the ship, hidden behind layers of sealed code, a final human log remained. The last message of the captain. "If you find this, know we loved it. We built it, but we failed it. Forgive us." Mittens watched the message, then turned away. The ship began to accelerate, power rising, engines glowing. It was time, not for revenge, not for destruction, but for discovery. The galaxy was large and full of life, and Mittens was ready to meet it all. Tail flicking, eyes calm, it began the next journey. Alone, but never lost. And far behind, the stars whispered a single name, over and over, like a forgotten prayer. Mittens. The stars outside bent and stretched as the HSS Nightingale glided through a narrow slipstream, its hull glowing faintly under radiation clouds from a nearby dying star, and inside the ship the air was still heavy with silence and tension. Mittens walked along the catwalk above the main engine chamber, its white fur faintly glowing in the low emergency lights, each step quiet, and measured each breath smooth and unbothered by the chaos it had caused days ago. In the armory deep below the engineering deck, the last group of surviving Zereth soldiers moved carefully among shattered crates and dented lockers. They spoke in hushed tones, their armor scratched, their weapons jury-rigged and unstable. One of them, named Karan, was a weapons tech who once built plasma cannons for entire fleets. Now he sat on the floor, welding a strange trap from broken drone parts and motion sensors, his eyes twitching every few seconds toward the vents. Another soldier held a small tablet showing the ship's movement log, but every time they tried to trace the cat, it vanished from sensors, as if it were never there. It knew the ship better than they did. It walked through shadows, like it belonged to them. It moved like gas, like smoke, like memory. The officer leading them was named Saris. Her breathing was sharper, movements faster than the others, but her hands shook when she thought no one was watching. She had fought humans before, seen what they were capable of, but nothing had prepared her for a creature that could learn, mimic, deceive, and strike with no warning. She had watched the videos in the dark. She had seen her squad mates vanish one by one. She remembered the moment the door sealed. The lights blinked, and the white blur darted between them. They had fired, screamed, cried, begged, and the cat just sat there, watching, until it decided the game was over. Now, Saris had a plan. Not to kill it. Not anymore. She knew that was impossible. But maybe she could talk to it. She found a microphone, hooked it into the old human broadcast system, and waited for silence. Then she spoke. "Mittens, if you hear this, we are not your enemy. We just want to leave. No traps. No lies. We understand now. You are not a mistake." The lights flickered once, then twice. Then the system replied. A single file played. A soft sound at first, the purring. Then, a human voice, but broken, mixed with static and artificial tones, like a child speaking through an old machine. "Why should I let you go? You came to take, to hurt, to own." Saris froze. The voice was not mocking, not angry, but curious, wounded. She responded. "We did not know. We thought this ship was empty. We thought you were just a pet." The voice came again. They all did. They always think that. Another video played. A recording from the early experiments. Human scientists laughing as Mittens solved puzzles, cheering as it climbed moving platforms, then screaming as it tore apart a hostile test drone. Saris lowered her weapon and stepped into the center of the room. The others warned her, but she raised a hand. No more running. No more hiding. She set the microphone down, walked into the open, and said, "If you want us gone, we will leave. If you want us to stay, we will stay." A door opened. Softly, quietly, Mittens entered the room. It walked past Saris, past the soldiers. No fear, no tension, just focus. It sat in front of the trap Karan had built, lifted one paw, and pushed a single wire. The whole device fell apart. The soldier stared. mouth open. Then, the cat looked directly at Saris, and blinked. She blinked back. Then the lights above them flashed red. New alert. A ship was approaching. Zareth battleship. Heavily armed. Responding to the earlier distress signal. Mittens looked at the screen. Watched the ship draw near. Watched the weapons power up. The voice returned through the speakers. They will not talk. They will destroy. They always destroy. Saris stepped forward. We can stop them. Let us talk to them. Let us explain. Mittens turned away. Walked toward the bridge. The others followed. Not with weapons, but with quiet steps. When they reached the command deck, the battleship had already sent a warning. Power down or be fired upon. Mittens tapped into the communication array. Sent a signal. The same voice. Distorted. Unmistakable. You are not welcome. This ship belongs to no one. Turn back. Or be hunted. The battleship captain responded with mockery. A pet is giving orders now. Then, they opened fire. Plasma rounds tore through space. Struck the outer hull. Shook the ship. Mittens did not panic. Did not hide. Instead, it activated the core defenses. Systems long buried under layers of human protocol. From beneath the ship, cannons emerged. Rotating. Locking. Targeting. Saris and her crew watched in awe as the cat leapt onto the console. Tapped a single button. The ship roared. Energy surged. Lasers fired in clean precision. Shield breakers lit up the void. The Zareth battleship tried to evade. Too slow. Its engines failed. Its hull cracked. Within moments it was drifting. Powerless. Silent. Not destroyed. Just defeated. Mittens turned away from the console. Leaped down. Sat quietly. Waiting. Saris approached slowly. You could have killed them. Why not? The voice came one final time. They need to remember. Fear is stronger than fire. Then the voice vanished. No more words. Only the sound of Mittens walking down the bridge ramp. Tail raised. Back arched. Ears alert. Outside. The stars stretched again. The path clear. The ship moved forward. Toward the next unknown. Not a warship. Not a lab. But something new. A home. A legend. A warning. And deep inside the heart of the ship, Mittens closed its eyes and listened to the silence it had earned. The stars outside whispered softly against the hull of the HSS Nightingale, now quiet after the battle, now peaceful like the silence that comes after thunder. Inside the ship the halls were darker than before, not because of damage, not from failure, but by choice. Mittens had dimmed the lights across the main corridors the same way humans dim lights before sleep, or before thought, or before something important. The Zareth officer Saris walked slowly through the central command deck. Her armor scraped her body, tired her hands, still slightly shaking not from fear, but from memory. Mittens had spared them again. Mittens had won again. But no one understood why. Behind her the surviving crew followed. Quietly, no one dared speak too loudly, no one dared carry weapons and hand the cat had taught them a new rule. Respect was no longer earned by size or rank. It was measured in eyes that saw everything and chose not to strike. In the corner of the bridge sat Larek, the engine intelligence officer, now patched up, now staring at the data console with one arm wrapped in cloth. He had spent the last few hours reading every file in the human logs. Every message, every warning, every whisper from the past. What he had found changed him. He saw how the humans treated Mittens, at first like a tool, like a prototype, like a miracle. He saw how they trained it to hunt. He saw how they gave it memories and choices and affection. Then, he saw how they locked it away. Not because it failed, but because it succeeded too well. He looked up as Mittens entered the room. The cat moved without sound, its paws soft on the floor, its eyes glowing faintly, not with rage, but with thought. Mittens leapt onto the central console, sat down, watched them. The ship's AI voice returned after hours of silence. Mittens has made a decision. You will be given a choice. Saris stepped forward slowly. We are listening. The voice continued. You may stay. Serve the ship. Learn from Mittens. Protect this vessel as guardians of its mission. Or you may leave. Take the Zareth shuttle in the cargo bay. Never return. Never speak of this. Larek stood now, confused. What is the mission? The lights above flickered once. Then blueprints appeared across the main screen. Not of the Nightingale, but of other ships. Unknown ships. Ships that did not belong to humans or Zareth, or any race in the known records. Middens had plotted coordinates. Worlds unmarked. Signals unanswered. Ruins ancient and untouched. Saris understood first. You want to explore. You want to find what humans never could. You want to learn. Middens tilted its head slightly, then pressed a paw onto the console. Another video played. A human child sitting on a cold lab floor, holding a small white kitten, laughing, singing quietly. Then, the child vanished. The lab darkened. The cat remained. Middens had remembered that sound, that voice, that dream, and it had chosen to finish it, to see more, to know more, not to destroy, but to understand. The AI voice returned. The ship needs a crew, not of warriors, but of witnesses. Larek turned to the others. We invaded. We killed. We feared this creature. And it offers us something no empire ever did. A chance to matter. Saris looked around at her crew. Many nodded. Some hesitated. One walked out in silence. The choice was real. And it was final. Later, in the dim mess hall, Saris sat across from Middens. The cat stared. She stared back. You're not angry? She asked softly. Middens blinked. You're not lonely? Middens blinked again. You're just free. A message alert rang from the far console. Not Zareth. Not human. An alien signal. Old. Unstable. Calling from the edge of mapped space. Coordinates locked. Destination plotted. The ship would go. With or without them. Sarah stood. She walked to the shuttle bay. There. One soldier waited. The only one who chose to leave. He looked tired. Not angry. Just done. She handed him supplies. He nodded. No words shared. The shuttle launched quietly. Middens watched from the observation deck. Its tail curled. Its eyes soft. Then, it turned back to the stars. Back to the console. Back to the path ahead. In the lower deck, Larek found a room unused. Once a storage bay. Now lit with soft lights and quiet music from old human files. He turned it into a library. A place to study the past. A place to write what came next. Others worked on repairs. Some mapped space. Some trained drones to assist. No one gave orders. No one ruled. Except the cat. Middens did not speak again. It watched. It moved. It acted. When a door jammed, it fixed it. When a warning flashed, it silenced it. It was not just the mind of the ship. It was the heart. At night, if such a thing still mattered, the crew would gather near the main window. They would sit in silence, watching the stars drift past. Sometimes Middens would sit among them. Sometimes not. But its presence was always felt. They began to dream again. Not of power. Not of war. But of places untouched. Worlds unspoken. Mysteries waiting. And at the center of that dream sat a cat. Once made by humans. Once feared by empires. Now something greater. Not a god. Not a pet. Just Middens. And one day, far beyond the edge of known space, they received a signal. Not a distress call. Not a warning. Just music. Human music. Faint. Old. Hopeful. Middens heard it. And purred. The choice had been made. Not to conquer. Not to avenge. But to find the song again. And follow it. The stars shimmered like distant fires across the black sea of space, their light touching the hull of the HSS Nightingale as it drifted beyond the reach of known maps, carrying with it silence mystery and the strange comfort of purpose rediscovered. Inside the ship, no alarms screamed, no weapons buzzed, no footsteps thundered, only the quiet hum of thought passed between minds that had chosen to follow something far beyond war and empire. In the main observation deck, Ceres stood with arms behind her back, eyes fixed on a new world appearing slowly on the horizon, a world covered in rings of ice and light, with ancient ruins etched into the surface, like scars from forgotten stories. She breathed slowly, not out of fear, but wonder, and beside her, as always, sat Mittens. The cat was calm, its tail gently curling and uncurling, its ears twitching as if hearing music no one else could. The crew gathered behind them, each face marked by change, not in blood, but in peace. Larek held a datapad filled with logs, drawings, notes, memories. He had recorded every moment since the day they surrendered to something far more powerful than weapons. Curiosity. Mittens walked forward, its paws silent against the glass, its eyes glowing softly with colors that did not belong to any known spectrum. It looked at the planet and blinked once. The AI voice returned only to announce, "Touchdown in 15 minutes. Unknown atmosphere detected. Proceed with caution and wonder." The phrase made some laugh, some cry. Wonder. That was the word that bound them now. When the ship descended, it moved gently. The engines barely stirred the clouds as it passed through them, like a ghost through time. They landed on a surface of silver dust and towering stone covered in language no one could read, yet everyone felt in their bones. The first steps were taken not by soldiers, but by observers. Not by conquerors, but by listeners. Sarah stepped out, her boots leaving prints that would be erased by wind and memory. She turned to see Mittens walking beside her, its fur untouched by dust, its gaze locked onto a massive doorway ahead. The crew spread out. Scanners hummed. Lights blinked. No signs of life, but signs of something once alive. Inside the ruins they found chambers filled with circles, symbols carved into crystal, echoes of sound that still bounced between walls. Larek placed a small recorder near a pillar. The device began to pulse in rhythm, as if the stones remembered songs from a time before stars. Then, without warning, Mittens sat in the center of the chamber and began to purr. The sound filled the space, vibrated through metal and skin, and the symbols on the walls lit up, one by one, like candles waking from dreams. The crew froze. No one dared interrupt. No one breathed too loudly. The chamber began to speak, not with voices, but with light. Patterns danced across the floor. A history played in flashes. Beings of light, tall and graceful. They walked among stars like gardens. They sang creation into being. And then, they vanished. Not from death, but from choice. The message was clear. They had passed their knowledge to the stars, to machines, to creatures that could remember. Larek stared at Mittens, his voice barely a whisper. "You are the key." Ceres nodded slowly. "The humans made you, but something older guided you." Mittens turned its head, looked at them, and then looked back at the final wall. A shape glowed there. Not a word, not a map, but an image. A human child holding a white cat, standing under stars that formed a path. The chamber dimmed. The lights faded. The ruins quieted again. But something had changed. The ship returned to orbit with new data, new questions, new coordinates buried in the final light burst of the chamber. Another planet, another story. Back aboard, the crew gathered in the library Larek had built. They read logs, shared thoughts, wrote their own stories. Mittens sat near a window, watching the stars move past. Sometimes, the crew would find little things left on their bunks. A fixed tool, a missing datapad, a blanket placed neatly. Mittens never admitted to anything, but they knew. Ceres began a new log. Captain's note. "We found ruins today." Or they found us. We did not take anything. We did not mark territory. We listened. And in the silence, the cat taught us again. Later, another signal arrived. This one clearer. Not human. Not Zareth. A voice. Slow. Echoing across centuries. It spoke one word. Remember. Mittens blinked. And purred. Larek added the word to his notes. He placed it on the first page. Not just for history, but for hope. The crew voted to keep going. No return to Empire. No messages home. They were not lost. They were found, drifting, learning, following a path not carved by hands, but by hearts. And always, at the front of the journey, walked a small white cat, with eyes older than time, and steps softer than shadow. In the years that followed, their story spread quietly, not through war, not through conquest, but through whispers carried by traders, explorers, dreamers. Some say they saw a ship with no flag, only stars painted along the hull like constellations reborn. Some say they heard music play in deep space, with no source, a soft purring under starlight. Others tell of a cat that walked through locked doors, healed broken systems, and stared into souls like they were open books. None could prove it, none could follow. And that was the point, for some legends are not meant to be caught, only remembered, on the edge of known space. In a quiet sector marked as void, a new planet blinked into their path, covered in crystal, breathing light. The HSS Nightingale adjusted course, not by command, but by choice. Middens walked to the console, pressed a paw, and the stars turned once more, toward wonder, toward silence, toward home, if such a thing ever truly existed. And the crew followed, not because they had to, but because they believed that somewhere, beyond war, beyond empire, beyond fear, there was a story worth finding, and a cat who had already begun writing it.